Hello, good people. Welcome back to the Kuhb Games YouTube channel. Today, for Warrior Wednesday, I thought I would bring the last round of the PWCQ I played on Saturday. Ended up going 4-2 in this event with Warriors. Not bad, but, forever top 16 gang. Maybe one day I'll top 8, but, we're still learning. We'll get there eventually. I've rewatched this match a couple of times now, and there are some decisions that, I'm actually not completely sure on. But I remember thinking them over for, a decent bit while playing the match, specifically in game one. If you stick around for game three, there's a time I had just have an absolute stroke and try to completely throw the match. Not sure what that was about. That was just complete lapse in thought, but we'll get to that whenever we get to it. I think game one is pretty full of decisions and a pretty good one. So yeah, let's get into it and see if there's anything else that I can learn here. So lose rock paper scissors 6 times in a row, as you'll see me say. We open up a pretty decent hand. I'm expecting my opponent to be on Chaos Turbo. Just off the bat, Stout Astronaut plays a lot of Chaos Turbo, so, or at least from what I have seen. I've played against this person before in a PWCQ. So they lead on Thunder Dragon, Graceful Charity. Not the best start for trying to win a last round of Swiss. I draw Solemn Judgment though, which is very good. So here I have the option. I can summon out Breaker, try to break their back row and attack over their monster, and hopefully get a plus off of a back row that's not chainable. But this is Turbo that we're talking about. So Breaker turn 1 is generally not going to get you a plus. They're either going to have a Raigeki break to chain, and they're already up a card. So it's like not even a true minus. They could also have the Sinister Serpent to go with it. They could very easily set Ring of Destruction or Jar of Greed, something like that. So I generally don't like to play my breakers turn 1. So I'm actually going to go with Rhoda for Exiled Force here. The reason I choose Exiled Force over like a level 2 that's going to sit on the board is 1, I don't have a lot of protection for that level 2. I do have a Trap Dust Shoot, but if the opponent just has, like Breaker, Tsukuyomi, Dekoichi, Spy, any combination of those two, they could get through the Trap Dust Shoot and just be able to attack over the level 2, and then I wouldn't have that for later in the game. I also have a Premature Burial in hand, which goes very well with Exile Force, of course. If it's going to send itself to the graveyard, we can just get it back later. So pretty happy about that. And then we've got, Solemn Judgment, Trap Dust Shoot as backup here, and we're just going to turn off Dust Shoot for the rest of the game, essentially, and we'll be kind of, good against everything because of the Solemn Judgment here. Obviously, if this Exiled Force hits a Sangan or a Spirit, or not Spirit Reaper, a Sinister Serpent, that's very bad, but I'm going to take my chances here. You could go with, all of the reasoning that I just had to not summon Breaker and think that my opponent's not going to set Mirror Force, and I could just get level 2. But again, I just don't really have the proper protection for it, so. Though I do have Premature Burial, that is also good with level 2, but I think Exile Force is totally fine here, though that's a play that I could see, maybe you get a Blade Knight so that you have a light, maybe you do something else, but I think I'm okay with the Exile Force play. But we're going to set everything, and we're going to Trap Dust Shoot the opponent. That's going to reveal a Pot of Greed that they just drew, which is bad. Mirror Force, Magician of Faith, Mind Control, BLS, and Night Assailant. So again, I think this is actually a tough choice. I think it's between Magician of Faith and BLS. We don't care about the Mind Control. We don't even care about the Mirror Force because we have Breaker. And I'm actually going to opt for the Magician of Faith here. The reason is, the opponent already has, Dark Light turned on, so we're not cutting them off of an attribute or anything. But my opponent has Graceful Charity already in the graveyard. And they have Night Assailant to go along with it. So if they're able to flip this Magician of Faith, get back Graceful Charity, and then activate Graceful Charity, pitch Night Assailant, get back the Magician of Faith again, I think I just lose, honestly. And I don't really, I do have Premature Burial for Exiled Force, but there's still a potential that this could be a Raigeki break back here. So I think taking the Magician of Faith stops the most long-term. Also with Snatch Steal and Premature Burial, I do have 2 outs to the BLS, though I am thinking about Solemn Judgmenting this Pot of Greed, which I'm actually going to. So yeah, that's kind of the reasoning for Magician of Faith. I could also see taking the BLS there, But I think long term, the Magician of Faith is just going to win the game more than the BLS would potentially. So opponent activates Pot of Greed. I do Solemn Judgment. A lot of times I don't Solemn Judgment the Pot of Greed, but we're already behind on cards. And, you know, like I said, I don't care about the Mirror Force in my opponent's hand. I don't care about Mind Control at all. And I don't really care about this Night Assailant. I'm looking to pick up a plus with Breaker. Taking out the Mirror Force, I can attack over the Night Assailant. That's gone, and then we'll actually just be even on cards. So that's kind of, you know, sort of what I'm looking at, you know, looking forward for a little bit of a game plan here. If the opponent wants to slam BLS, you know, obviously I'll go down to 1,000, and then we're in a bad position, you know, with life total, but I don't expect them to slam the BLS here. Stout Astronaut's a good Chaos Turbo player. In turn 1, set 4. You're not thinking, you know, Premature Burial, Snatch Steal. Now, of course, one of these could be some sort of a bluff, but you just don't want to run your BLS out, especially when, you know, you're currently up on cards, the game's close, you have a Battle Trap here. So I'm fine with the Solemn Judgment play. I could also see holding on to the Judgment. But the opponent does flip a Jar of Greed here, so I'm glad I didn't play the Breaker turn 1. And they just set 2, set a monster that we presume is Night Assailant. So here, I could summon level 2 and attack, but that's just going to eat a Mirror Force, so I opt to go for Breaker. I know I don't really care about the Night Assailant killing the Breaker, so that's totally fine. I also don't care about the Mirror Forcing the Breaker, so I think this is pretty easy. Just try to snipe the Mirror Force, and try to pick up a +1 and then attack with Breaker. I think that's the safest play. We can save the level 2 for later, and I do end up hitting the Mirror Force, so that's pretty cool. Attack with Breaker into Night Assailant, and there we go. We're even on cards. Even though my opponent has, they had Thunder Dragon, Graceful Charity. They activated a Pot of Greed. Granted, it didn't resolve, but they have seen their best 2 pieces of Trinity, because Delinquent Duo is getting to a point where it's just going to be a 1-for-1 or just a dead card from here on. So, and I do know about my opponent having a Mind Control in hand. That's a dead card as well. So we're effectively up a card in a way, if you want to look at it that way. So pretty happy with how this has gone so far. Opponent sets a card, activates Jar of Greed, totally fine. Playing around another Dust Shoot. Upstart Goblin puts me up to 5,000, totally cool with that. They just set another back row and passed a turn. I draw Spy, which makes me kind of sad because I know of Mind Control, but I mean, I'm very glad that I know about the Mind Control, because I'd be very inclined to set Spy here, of course. I make a play that might be a little too cute, and I set level 2. And this is kind of to draw out the Mind Control. The reason that I want to do that is, like, the opponent could have seen some of my replays from earlier in the tournament, and they could be thinking, ooh, he's playing Spy. I can snag that really quick and just get some value here. But the opponent also knows that I know about this Mind Control, so they're very incentivized to not activate it here. Though I guess, like, it's going to be dead against Warrior anyway, so you may as well see if I made a mistake and try to get some value off of it. But there's no shot I'm ever setting Spy here. If I knew it was, like, a knock, I might consider it, because that would mean I get to play the rest of the game without Spy. But even then, I probably wouldn't. So I just set level 2. My opponent didn't show that they had a monster to summon last turn. Maybe, you know, if they summon out BLS and they want to exile, that's totally fine with me. Because I have a Snatch Steal. But yeah, we'll pass the turn with a little cute play there. The opponent does flip up Mind Control, which is really nice. So they see the level 2, they flip it up, and then they summon BLS. I'm like, okay, are we attacking with that? No, they're going to banish the level 2. So now I'm going to flip up Premature Burial, and this is to bait out a Raigeki break. Essentially, just fishing for that. I go get Exile Force, and then I flip up Snatch Steal. I'm not so sure about this. I get what I'm doing. I'm playing around Raigeki break. I guess I'm kind of screwed if I don't, right? If this Snatch Steal doesn't go through, then I'm in a really bad spot. So maybe that's just a play that I need to make. But I'm not totally sure that was correct. Maybe I just go for the Snatch Steal. If it doesn't work out, then I just Exile Force the BLS and set Torrential Tribute. I think that may have actually been a little better. I think maybe I'm thinking a little too deep with activating the premature burial first, especially with my follow-up plays. I don't agree with my follow-up plays. I do exile the Magician of Faith, which I think is totally fine. But now I attack with the Exiled Force. Mirror Force is gone, so not putting BLS in defense here is totally fine. We're not running into Mirror Force. But I attack with it, just put BLS in defense and set Torrential. Maybe I should have just snatched the BLS and banished itself and used Exiled Force on the face-down monster. I'm running myself into Heavy Storm really, really badly when I don't think I had to. Yeah, I probably could have just banished the BLS with itself, use Exiled Force to kill the face-down, set Torrential Tribute, and pass the turn. Or, I could just set Spy, whatever. I don't think I need to be this aggressive. Though, if there's no Heavy Storm or an MST is also very bad for me. If there's no Heavy Storm or MST, then I likely just win this game. But or Breaker. Breaker also just breaks the game wide open. Pun. But yeah, I think I should have been a little bit more defensive here and not so aggressive. I set the Spy too. Okay. So I'm basically just not playing around anything here. That was a turn that could have used a little bit more thought to actually progress through. I think overthought it a little bit and then underthought it a little bit, both at the same time. So here I switch BLS to attack. We're going to attack in with it and Exiled Force. Clearly the opponent doesn't have an MST. They would have used it on their turn and done a whole bunch of damage here. But now we have the Spy face down. And we have a mind control. If the opponent gets back their BLS and it doesn't kill us, we can mind control it and then banish it or whatever. So we're actually in a good spot now. But we took a very, very risky route to get there. Opponent plays Delinquent Duo. You can make the case maybe I'm supposed to set the mind control because I'm already not playing around Heavy Storm, so maybe I was supposed to set it just to play around exactly Duo. But also, I kind of don't care if my opponent deals 1,000 damage to themselves. But probably best to hold on to the mind control. We see now the opponent does have a Regeki break, so they get to take the BLS back. They're playing scared of my trap, and they actually exile the Exile Force. I just have a light go out. It got a lot darker in here. Weird. I'm not sure if you all could see that in how bright the room is on the video, but yeah, that was weird. Anyway, back to the game. Opponent playing scared of the back row. So they banish the Exile Force. I make one of my favorite plays in the game with Spy, and that is flip Spy, activate the effect as Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2, Torrential Tribute. We get a judge involved. The opponent didn't know that Torrential would resolve first, and I would be able to keep the target that I get from the deck. But that is how this works. MMF comes through. We get the BLS off the board. Spy comes down. There is still Torrential Tribute in the deck, so I believe, yeah, I play scared of Torrential Tribute and just attack with a Spy. And I think this is totally fine. Opponent sets a monster. I draw Pot of Greed because, sometimes after you completely try to blunder a whole turn, you get paid off a little bit. I'm going to summon Blade Knight and get aggressive here because now if someone called me out for this in a comment, but I'm going to say it again. I don't really care if my opponent Torrential Tributes, right? So I'm just going to attack with a Blade Knight. Tsukiyomi's going to flip down Spy. Unfortunately, I don't play a third. But they are going to save themselves some life points. Yeah, I'm going to flip up Spy. If it's Torrential again, I don't care. I also just have Solemn Judgment. So if it is Torrential, they likely lose. So yeah, I'm just going to summon out Tribe. We're going to be aggressive, go for a game shot. We get it. I didn't think they had anything down to really stop anything. So if the new set did something, I felt pretty comfortable that I was going to win the game with that Solemn Judgment. So definitely some decisions in that game that could have been different. Totally fine with accepting that. and definitely some decisions that I would like to take back. Specifically with that BLS Exile Force turn, I think that was pretty not well thought out. But overall, happy to get the win, of course. All right, here we are in game 2. Opponent going first, obviously. I see a Solemn Judgment hand, and I'm pretty happy to have it. So here, I think I'm going to probably just summon Blade Knight and attack. I'm not sure if that's the play I make. It is the play I make, yeah. So we can summon out Blade Knight, set the entire hand besides Spy, and just attack. It's very likely to not go through, but that's totally fine. I have a follow-up with Rhoda, and, you know, I have Solemn Judgment. If something goes, like, way bad and they draw, you know, Graceful Charity into a Magician of Faith, that's totally fine. But it's very likely that's not a Magician of Faith set. And I think, you know, if the attack doesn't go through, then Knight Assailant doesn't matter. Any of the flip effects like Dekoichi, whatever, you know, it's marginal. The opponent would, you know, get a plus off of the Dekoichi, but we'd be able to run it over to get the plus back probably a little later. So I'm totally fine with this play. Blade Knight is here. Blade Knight is now. Set the hand. Attack with Blade Knight. It actually goes through, and we mop up a Knight Assailant, and now you're going to see what just made me absolutely just shit my pants. MST, roll a die, Solemn Judgment. You know exactly what's about to happen. I knew exactly what was about to happen, especially seeing my opponent flip a Scapegoat here. I'm like, oh no. Oh no, we've lost the game. There are no more decisions to be made, and yes, there's the Heavy Storm. So, lose everything here. Somebody's going to yell at me for not activating that Rhoda. I don't think you're supposed to activate Rhoda there. In hindsight, you know, had I known my opponent was going to kill my Solemn Judgment and Heavy Storm me, yeah, sure, absolutely. I would have activated Rhoda. But like the turbo deck can bring in Kaiku against Warrior sometimes. I'm not going to bump this down to a 1600 and get a card that I don't know that I'm going to use. I'm just going to hold on to the Rhoda and sit behind that Solemn Judgment and, you know, hope disaster scenario that happens. So here we are. Way behind. Opponent even has a Tsukuyomi. We're down to a Spy. Cool. Opponent doesn't set any back row though, so okay. We draw Delinquent Duo. All right. So we're basically on one card each. Obviously, my opponent has Scapegoat down, so they've got a good defense going there, and one of the cards they get to discard is Knight Assailant to get a Knight Assailant back. So okay. We're not even anymore, but I set my Spy and pass the turn. Opponent just sets a monster, sets a back row. I have a Heavy Storm. Not going to activate it. Not a big fan of throwing off a Heavy Storm against Turbo into just one random back row. I'm just going to flip Spy, go get Spy, try to work on these Scapegoats a little bit. Opponent Sakuretsu's it. That's totally fine. Not too worried about that. Attack over a token. I'm going to set Heavy Storm. Opponent's Heavy Storm is gone. Opponent's MST is gone. You know, if they summon out a Breaker, they summon out a Breaker. We're in a bad spot regardless, but Knight Assailant's going to flip, kill my Spy, just attack in for 200. That's not a big deal. Then they're going to set a back row and pass. So I draw Kaiku, which is phenomenal. Big fan of drawing Kaiku here, obviously. Opponent doesn't have any lights yet, but, you know, just having a big beater on the board that can turn off potential Chaos plays in the future, awesome. Probably one of the best draws I could have had here. I'm going to go ahead and Heavy Storm because I really want this Kaiku play to go through. And with my opponent on so few cards, I would imagine if that was a jar, well, no, that's from a different turn. So yeah, I'm really just, you know, throwing off a blind heavy here, but it's to make sure a Kaiku attack goes through. So yeah, I'm kind of fine with it. We're both on, you know, such low resources that this is fine. We get rid of a Knight Assailant and a Tsukuyomi, which yeah, those are the only targets to get. My opponent draws Pot of Greed because they're better than me. Totally fine. T-set pass, I draw a Zing Zinhu, which is just dead, so we're going to start working on these goats and hope we can get there. Opponent flips a Magician of Faith, which is very unfortunate, and then Torrential Tribute, so okay. Guess I'll just die. They get the Pot of Greed, yep. Summon a Chaos Sorcerer before Pot of Greed, and then ditch Thunder Dragon? That's an interesting sequence there. Okay. I mean, I know you should Thunder Dragon, before you Pot of Greed. That's totally fine, but I guess I don't know. Here they're playing around Dust Shoot, which makes a lot of sense, but yeah. So here's the Pot of Greed. Probably doesn't matter on the sequencing there, but interesting. But yeah, Chaos Sorcerer is going to get in for 2,300. I draw a Tribe. They can't do anything because I don't have any other cards in hand. Opponent's going to get in for 2,300 again. I'm just begging them to set another card. Instead, they summon Kaiku. I draw a Solemn Judgment, which, you know, it'd be very, very, very good if I had another card in hand. But I'm kind of forced to summon Tribe here. Try to get back in the game. Get rid of the Spellcasters and attack. It's going to eat a Sakuretsu. So we're sitting here with a Dead Zing against 3 cards. One of them is a Thunder Dragon, so we know about that. We're totally fine with that. I'm just going to summon Breaker and attack. I've got to do something. I can't just sit back and do nothing, or Chaos Turbo is going to just absolutely bury me here. We run over a Sinister Serpent. Not ideal, but, you know, it's fine. We're way far behind in this game. You know, everything is unfortunate at this point. But, yeah, the opponent's going to use their Metamorphosis, take the Breaker, hit me for 16. And then we're going to pray for a top deck, and Kaiku is not it. So, going to admit defeat there. But, you know, we'll hope to win game 3. All right. So, final game of the tournament. Let's try to not play like an idiot, especially now being on stream. So, challenge impossible. I see that my opponent has the Scapegoat package in, so I bring in Compulse and Book of Moon. I do not remember if I brought in King Tigers as well. But opponent summons Breaker, we Torrential it. And now I believe I summon my Breaker. Yeah. I'm just going to break. If it is Scapegoat, you know, that's fine. We force the activation here. We do have Compulse for 1,000 Eyes Restrict or something else like that. Obviously, it's not the card that you want to hit, but I also don't just want to throw out a Donzalug and have it chilling. It's a lot easier to deal with than a 1,600 beater. So, hey, this is fine. If it's a Raigeki break, you know, it forces the opponent to activate it. Sure, I'm fine with this. There's not really a whole lot I could have done about it. I'm just going to set the Compulse just as a chainable card. If the opponent wants a Metamorphosis, that's totally cool. Now I'll just summon out the Donzalug. And we're going to try to work on these tokens. But Don gets Sakuretsu'd. Breaker gets in. Yep, opponent's going to Upstart Goblin. We did play into Mirror Force there a little bit, even with like the Compulse. If we say Compulse our Breaker or whatever, we do still -1 there, but I think it's fine. I need to get the tokens off the board, and I need to be a little bit aggressive here. If you let Turbo, you know, sit there and gain a bunch of value and stuff, they are just going to bury you. You want to get out in front as much as possible. So I draw Pot of Greed and draw into a Solemn Judgment, which is fantastic. Gonna attack with Breaker here, and then just set all the back row. You could make a case for actually summoning level 2 there and just getting rid of the goats completely, but I do have a Compulse, so I think it's totally fine to not. Though there's definitely an argument to do that. All right, opponent does have Heavy Storm now, but they don't have the MST for my Solemn Judgment first, so marked safe from Heavy Storm. Opponent sets a bunch of back row. I draw Heavy Storm, which is pretty neat. I'm just going to attack over this goat. Continue this pressure like this. If the opponent, you know, draws into anything that can attack, it's dead. They draw Graceful Charity and activate it. I don't have a Solemn Judgment anymore, so I'm not going to Judgment it, clearly. But, you know, they don't have Thunder Dragon, but they do have Night Assailant, so they get their Magician of Faith back, but I have a level 2. And we'll see if we can take care of it. The opponent decides to not set Magician of Faith, though, and they just summon Kaiku, which is just best case scenario for me. I have double Sakuretsu armor down. Cool. You got a deal. We get rid of the Kaiku. We draw Spy, which isn't bad. I'm just going to start attacking. Hopefully whittle down these back rows. If they want to Sakuretsu a Breaker with no counter on it, be my guest. That's a great target for Sakuretsu for me. So opponent sets a monster. Now I'm going to summon level 2. I definitely could have gone for Exile Force here. especially if I'm thinking that that is a Magician of Faith. I do have, tempo play Compulse, but I don't know about this. I also could have Compulse their monster Heavy Stormed and then flipped up Spy, and I could have gotten in for, 4,200 damage if I wanted to. That might be a little aggressive. Do I know any cards in their hand? Yeah, I know about the Magician of Faith. They actually have double Magician of Faith here. Okay. This level 2 may be a little ambitious. They do Raigeki break it. And they ditch Magician of Faith. So at this point, I'm thinking that this isn't Magician of Faith down. I think maybe I should have just gone for Exiled Force there. I think this was a little... That may have been a little aggressive. But... Opponent's going to flip their Spy, go get another Spy, and then attack into my Spy. So we're just going to have dueling Spies here. This is fine. Draw a Kaiku. Very good draw. Though it's like, do I want to play around this one last back row? No, I'm just going to summon the Kaiku. The opponent activates Torrential. Which I'm thinking about compulsing something. I think just let that go. This is totally fine. I'm up, by 8 billion cards. All I got to do is not throw this game, and I'm totally fine. I have a Compulse. I have a Sakuretsu armor. Opponent summons out Chaos Sorcerer. That's fine. We're just going to Sakuretsu that on the attack. Get that out of here. Now they set a monster. I have Rhoda for Exiled Force if I want to, but I just don't need it because I'm too good. I draw Nobleman of Crossout. Unfortunately, my Donzalug is gone. Man, if I was able to knock this, summon Donzalug and attack, that would have just been ridiculous. But I Rhoda here for Blade Knight. What is my reasoning for that? I guess I'm already through my entire package except for DD Warrior Lady, and I don't need the DD Warrior Lady because I have a Snatch Steal for a Chaos Monster, so now I'm just going for damage, but 1,830, it's the same... Sasuke is the same clock as Blade Knight? Interesting. Blade Knight's not a bad choice here, but maybe I want to hold on to that Rhoda, especially for an Exile Force. Yeah, maybe I was supposed to hold on to that Rhoda, just summon Sasuke. Blade Knight is a little aggressive here. I don't know if I like this. Yeah, I don't know if I like this play. I think I just like summoning Sasuke and knocking. It's the... Right? Yeah, the opponent was at 72. 4 attacks is 7,200 exactly. I don't know. I think I just like the Sasuke line here. But the opponent doesn't play anything. So here's Sasuke. We're going to attack with both. I could have just done this turn anyway, but held my Rhoda in case I needed it for something. I don't know. Yeah, I think getting the Blade Knight with the Rhoda was a little bit of a mistake, but, here we are. Opponent activates Tribe Infecting Virus, kills my monsters, and here's where I have my absolute stroke. They attack with Tribe Infecting Virus, and I flip Call of the Haunted for Blade Knight. Why? Why? Why would I do that? This is a tribe. There's no excuse for this play. I know JDZ on stream was like, I'm taking that 1,600 all day. There's no way I flip Call there, and he's absolutely right. There's no way you flip Call of the Haunted there. So, I don't know. Opponent activates, or the opponent summons out Chaos Sorcerer. Cool. I can compulse this if I want to, but now I'm thinking I can just Snatch Steal Tribe, kill this, and take the game. But what if my opponent sets a back row? Which they do. I draw my own Tribe, but I could have been in... I could have just won the game just easily. But instead, now I'm banking on my opponent not having... Well, I guess... Yeah, MST is still live. Dust Tornado, if they're playing it, is still live. Obviously, Raigeki Break is not live, and it turns out that's what they had. But this was an absolute mess of a late game. Did not need to flip that Call of the Haunted there. That was just absolutely ridiculous on my end. And I'm not just sitting here beating myself up over it. I knew immediately whenever I did it. I was like, why? Why the hell would you even do that? So, that's a learning thing. I think I've played the games a little bit slower, a little bit more methodically. Been working on slowing it down, thinking through my plays a little bit more. Obviously, there were some areas in this match where I could still improve, but that's why you watch the matches back, and try to pick up on some things that you could have done better. So if there's anything else you all think I could do better, I'm sure I'm always bluffing will be in the comments telling me something that I did wrong. But I like to listen to him. He's a better Warrior player than me, has given me a lot of advice, and I really appreciate that. So yeah, that was the last round of Swiss. Again, ended up 4-2. Another top 16 to every PWCQ and GFCF played one day. I'm going to get that mythical top 8. But until then, that's the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll be back with the next one.